Hey everyone, it is me, Nasira, aka Suburban Farm Girl here. I know it's been quite some time since I've posted a lengthy video. A lot of that it has to do with just, honestly, just trying to decompress from everything that is going on around us. A lot of heartbreaking things happening in the news, and I've been trying as much as possible to stay off of social media, but with the time that we are in right now, being that it's towards the end of February, I wanted to make this video as this is a prime time if you haven't already started doing your seedlings, sowing your seeds for the upcoming spring and summer harvest. I wanted to share just some tips, as I promised, with the quick post that I made a few weeks ago on how to get started, especially if you've never tried to grow anything before. Hopefully, these tips of just getting started with seed sowing can really help you. I'm just feeling it's even more and more important these days to figure out ways to be more self-sufficient, and not having to depend on your grocery store, even your farmers markets, as much as possible. It is good to go and get things from farmers markets. There are people like growers like me who may be earning their living that way, but not only that, it's also a good way to make connections and even in some, worst case scenarios, be able to barter if necessary. Not thinking we're going there. I'm trying to be positive, but it's just always good to have local community contacts that you can rely on. I've just been hearing some pretty sad stories about farmers and others working for USDA, forestry workers losing their jobs. Some farmers have lost some of their funding. Egg prices, as you've heard, have gone up for various reasons. I won't get into that, trying to stay um, out of, any political aspects of that, but we all know what's going on right now with the prices and potential prices that we may be facing with produce in the coming months. So, if you've never started a garden, I highly encourage you to try. You can message me if you have questions about anything. I'm more than willing. I may be a little slow because I'm not on here as often as I would like, or I have been in the past. But if you would like to message me as you're starting your journey, try to post these videos more often, but I'm available. So, with that, I'm going to share just a couple of tips to get started on your seed starts. Okay. One of the things I like to do before I get started doing anything is just come up with a plan of what I'm going to be planting for that year. There are some apps out there, some planners. I won't go into all of them right now. I really don't use any of those. I use my little journal because I like to draw out where it's going to be in my garden. That's just me. But whatever method works best for you, just kind of outline those things that you'd like to grow. If this is your first time growing anything, and if you like tomatoes, I would say tomato plants are really a good place to start. They teach you a lot on how to grow plants. It's a good way to get started with, pruning and helping it to grow wider, not necessarily taller, which I'll have some tips on that I'll post soon. But it's a good place to start if you have not grown any plants at all. I do always recommend that you grow what you like to eat if you're getting started, and maybe try a few things just to not overwhelm yourself, because sometimes just with anything in life, if we grow a plant and we have a little bit of a hiccups or hard time, and sometimes it's not any fault of your own. It just could be like the difference in the weather during a time period. ultra heat, cold snaps, things like that can impact our growing. But sometimes when we have things like that to happen, it can be a little disappointing. And I just want to encourage you to just keep trying. Even I mean, I grew up with grandparents who were farmers, but I've killed a lot of plants. I'll just tell you, just trying to learn how to grow different things. So you don't have to be perfect. Just give it a try if it's something that you feel drawn to do. Flip side of that, I will say, if you have been feeling like, oh, I really want to start a garden, I think you should start a garden. There's that little unctioning that you have going on with you. This may be a good time to start a garden. So map out your plan, however, whichever way that you'd like on, the few plants that you feel that you'd like to get started. You could choose a list of crops that you can eat ongoing if you're limited with what you can find in the grocery store. There are some like lists of items to grow in like those historic like victory gardens or survival gardens. I don't want to sound too negative with those, but there are certain staples like, potatoes and your leafy greens and things of that nature that could be included in your garden if that's something that you are interested in growing. So can look for different lists to get some ideas on what to grow. And if you have something that you want to recommend to the rest of the people watching this video, drop it in the comments. I would like to have this channel be more of a community where we can share information with each other. So I welcome you to drop any suggestions that you have in the chat for others if you'd like to do so. So once you have your plan, then it's time to get your seeds. And there are a lot of reputable seed companies out there. I will just share a few, and I have no affiliation with them at all, but I do like to promote like small businesses. And I don't think you can see this necessarily, but this is Southern Seed Exchange. Southern Seed Exposure Seed Exchange. That's a small business, and I do highly recommend. They have a lot of USDA organic seeds that are, open pollinated or heirloom, which I highly recommend. That way you can take the seeds from those crops and you really wouldn't have to ever buy those seeds again unless you're like me. Sometimes I give things away. So that is always best if you can find heirloom or open pollinated seed. So that's one that I like to use. And I have actually been getting some of these like survival garden seeds from the seed banks. They say that they're heirloom. Haven't really used those a lot. I do get seeds from Baker Creek as well. That's another reputable company that I like to buy from. I used to get a lot of my seeds from Botanical Interests. They've been bought out by a larger company and it's a little bit more commercial, although I still believe that they have good quality seeds. If you have a good seed company that you like to order from, drop it in the chat again. Let's be all about community here and helping each other. So the next thing you would do once you have identified your seed is to look up some of the growing instructions. Oftentimes the back of the seed package will list some instructions. However, I think it is also important to do a little research. For me, I have found that after researching some growing tips, I've been able to get my seeds to germinate a lot faster than just following the instructions on the back of the packages. For example, I have a video that I've posted out there already that talks a lot about uh, different plants, specifically the medicinal plants that I grow that require co-stratification. And there are a lot that require that. I have actually started some seeds I'm going to show you in just a minute that I'll be sticking in the refrigerator for 4 weeks. So I've been timing out when I get these seeds started to make sure that after my first frost, they'll be ready to be put out in the garden. So do a little research to make sure that you are aware of, any special growing tips that you may need. Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about is once now that you have gotten your plan together, you've looked in your up your instructions on how to grow those particular plants. Now it is time for you to actually go ahead and get going, right? Okay. So what I like to do is I have like a little couple of little grow stations that I actually start my seedlings indoors. I have an area in the garage with grow lights. I have a little cart off the side of my kitchen that has 3 layers with grow lights as well. Okay, and I use those as well as some more sophisticated little items that, to be quite honest, I don't like these as much. I think some of the other examples that I'm going to show you are a whole lot better, but I will share this with you just to give you an idea. So this little package, I'm going to take this hood off so that you can see. It has a little place, and that actually is an area where I can put little grow lights that comes with this package. You may have seen some of these advertised online. They are okay. They actually do a pretty good job. I don't like the lighting, the ultraviolet lights that are included with them. I prefer like an LED grow light or just a light like this. Let's see if I can pull this down. It's in kind of in the way, but you can kind of see this side of it. And that's just a lamp, but it's an LED light that I use in my office, but I also have some that I use in my little grow stations too. But these are pretty neat though. They do serve a purpose. They have a little bottom area here that catches water, but you have to be really careful with these not to overwater because it just sits there. And what will happen is if you overwater, your plants and everything basically are just sitting in a bunch of water and it's not really escaping anywhere because there aren't any holes on the bottom of this one. But again, it does serve a purpose. I use this, I just don't use this as my main go-to. Um, I use as my main go-to here to go trays. As you can see, these are just little to-go trays. I'm gonna get the top for you here so that you can see that as well. So, you're ordering food to go. Now, the downside of this, these are plastic, and as much as possible, I would like to eventually move away from plastics because, those microplastics, they don't go anywhere, and it's one of those things that I have so much of it. It is very convenient right now, and I do use it to get my plants started most often. And the reason I like these so much is, I can use the bottom of it. I actually put holes all in the bottom of it. I use a soldering iron. Let me show you that. So I use a little soldering iron like that to poke holes in it, and then I rinse it off because again, those plastics that you have in those containers, you want to try to get as much of the melted plastic off as you can before you actually put any soil or anything like that in it. Okay. But that helps it to drain. If you want to put a little tray on the bottom, you can. But I have like a rack that gives it lots of air and insulation. I don't have a problem with like my plants that I'm growing in this getting like mold or anything of that nature. But I've had that problem with the other one that I showed you. Okay. So you have to be super careful again, just that you don't overwater and that it's getting plenty of air. Okay. But yeah, I like to use this. That's my favorite. And you get so many of these if you ever get to go orders. I just keep them, not all of them, of course, but I'll keep a few to use. Others I recycle um, just to use for my plants. And I then, put the cover on it. After you water, you can put the cover on it. And I have found that it really helps with my germination rate for my seeds. So I really truly like that one. The other item I want to talk about is now I do like these. These are my favorite. We just don't eat a lot of eggs, so I don't have a lot of cartons. Hopefully, I hope to have some chicken soon, and so maybe I'll start bulk ordering these cartons. But of course, these are biodegradable, and so these cartons, these are the little carbon cartons, egg cartons. Let me just kind of show you. So you've probably seen a lot of these in the stores, just like, your traditional egg cartons. And these are those that are the paper carbon egg cartons. I like to use these because you can just stick this right in the ground. And if you have multiple plants, once you've started your seeds, you can actually just kind of cut them or tear them apart and place them in different places in your garden. Just straight in the ground. You don't have to take them out of this. They will naturally break down. The roots will go through this, especially if you're watering it. So I really do like these cartons. They are super helpful. You can see here that I've actually started writing in names of some different plants that I'm going to grow. I do recommend that you use either, a pen on these types of cartons. And then on the plastic ones, I actually like to use just a tape or so that kind of outlines what's in it. Let's see, you can kind of see. I just take a little masking tape and write on the container what's in there just to keep up with it. I'm just going to be honest. There are some days where I forget to do that, and it's like, okay, it's a mystery. What's in here? I have no idea. Let's figure it out once it gets tall enough. But don't do what I do, but maybe take the guidance that I need to learn from also. I'm doing a better job of it this spring, but labeling everything because you may think like I have in the past that, oh, I'll remember what that was. And then I totally forget. I have absolutely no idea, what I've labeled, right? And I'm just going to tell you, like, I use pretty much anything else that's biodegradable. See, I compost, so I use a lot of like cardboard or carbon boxes and stuff for different things. And I also compost. But this is an example of one that I actually need to put in the fridge to do a little cold stratification. It's horehound. And this is actually, I got these off of Etsy. They're heirloom seeds from Southern Seed Exchange. That's different from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, but this is Southern Seed Exchange. And I had this little cardboard box, and I just decided, I don't know what's on there, but I just decided to put it in this little cardboard box, put it in the fridge. I'm going to wrap it and then put a little water on it and then put it in the fridge and then wrap it, of course. And this one requires about 4 weeks of cold stratification. So once it's ready, I'll pull it out after the 4 weeks and then put it under my grow lights with the rest of my plants that I'm starting. Okay. And then I like to harden off my plants before I put them out in the garden. So I do have a little greenhouse area that I use for that. Usually I'll transplant my plants into some larger containers, and I'll make a video on that so that you can kind of see how I do that. And that just helps the plants to two things, harden up their roots, get used to the outdoor temperatures. Of course, this is after the last frost before, you want to wait until after the last frost before you do that. Here's another example of something that I use. These are just some little containers that I got from one of our like local grocery stores. They sold um, like fresh fruit in it. And I just kept these because I thought they would be helpful. And again, these are just like the egg cartons. It's that carbon carton, the paper carton. And, I just put a little bit of soil in here and put my little label on here. And what I'm going to do, and in this case, because it's one flat and it's not separated, I just put the same type of plant in this one. That way it'll be easier for me to kind of plant these out, and just basically I'll just separate them out. And I like to put fennel close together. So in this case, this actually works for me. Another one I tend to put in a big flat like this. Another plant is basil. So, but I typically like to put the same type of basil together and then just separate them out. They tend to grow well early on, pretty close together. So, and then you'll just want to thin them out and put them out in your garden after you've hardened them up. Okay. So, since we're talking about soil, so you want to make sure that you use either potting soil without mulch, but ideally you'll want to use seed starting soil. So there are some companies that sell seed starting soil. I like to use organic, not like those companies that have all of the added fertilizers and things of that nature. But truly those that are organic, maybe some with a little compost, but you're just getting your seeds started. You don't really need to have a whole lot of that nutrition kind of early on. You just want the seeds to get started and germinate right away. So like this is one that I kind of made together. It has a little bit of coconut coir, a little potting soil, as well as perlite, just to have a little oxygenation. But you want to pick out any like clumps of mulch because that actually could inhibit your germination. So be sure that if you can't find any soil that doesn't have mulch in it, that somehow you strain out the thicker mulch pieces. Now I have done that before. I've used like a little mesh from a screen that I had, like a window screen. So I just used that. I also have a little kitty litter shovel that I use for like my bigger bags of mulch that I want, or bigger bags of soil that I want to pull out the mulch from. So that's another idea for you. But the main thing is you just want the consistency of it to be very faint. I like coconut coir. Now you have to kind of be careful with that though, because not all seeds work well with coconut coir. So a mixture of coconut coir and potting soil actually is a really good way to go there. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much all that I have as far as tips are concerned for today. I will share or either edit in videos of the grow spaces that I have right now that will give you some ideas of what you can do with your space. If you have any questions or if you have any suggestions of things that work really well for you, drop them in the comments and I will get back to your questions as soon as I can. Well, I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Be safe and enjoy getting started with those gardens. And despite whatever else is going on in the world, let's never forget